Hey guys, welcome back to another video on my channel. RFK Jr. has recently dropped out and in fact endorsed former President Donald Trump, which will play a significant effect on the 2020 electoral map. And in today's video, we're going to be going over this map and changing my prediction just a little bit because of his recent dropout and endorsement of Donald Trump. Now, first, let's go over the 2020 election and how close it actually was. People might sometimes say, Joe Biden won by 4.5% the popular vote. He won by around, 6-7 million votes. So he must have won by a quite considerable amount. And the electoral votes do show that he won 306 to 232. But what some people don't understand is how many votes actually put him over the top. There's 3 states that gave him 270 electoral votes, would be the states of Arizona, Wisconsin, and Georgia. In the state of Georgia, he won by 12,000 votes, which were mostly gains from the Atlanta suburbs. This is a big reason why he was able to win the election. And the state of Wisconsin would be the next one, where he won by 20,000 votes, less than the amount of votes that Donald Trump won by in 2016 percentage-wise. He did this a little bit from moving those wild counties to the left. Donald Trump still made gains in rural parts of Wisconsin, but just these most populous counties trending a few points to the left would be enough to offset any Trump gains. The last state that gave Biden the win would be the state of Arizona, which he won by the smallest margin in raw numbers, 11,000 votes. And this is mainly from Maricopa County swinging 5 points to the left. And that's basically the states that gave Biden the win. Every other state that went any other way would be completely insignificant if Donald Trump won these 3 other states. It would put him over that 270 threshold, and he would be president right now, and we would be having a totally different conversation at this moment. And the votes between these 3 states would be around 40,000. So that just shows you how close it ended up being. And that's why this time around, I give Trump a better chance of winning due to the fact that he is only down 1.5% chance in the popular vote. Also, let's consider that Democrats are usually overestimated in their popular vote margins. In 2020, Biden was supposed to win by 7.4% at this time in history. In 2016, Clinton was supposed to win by 6%. So either one of 2 things is going on right now. The number one thing that could be going on is states like California and New York are shifting very heavily towards the right, as well as Texas and Florida. If those 4 states shift to the right heavily, we're going to see a very much more tightened electoral, we're going to see a much more tightened popular vote margin. But, once again, we don't see that Trump is winning Texas and Florida by the polls by that much to really make that much of a difference. In New York, we're seeing definitely some shifts to the right, and in California, but we're not seeing monumental shifts that would bring his loss from 4.5% all the way down to 1.5 potentially. And this may be even overestimating Democrats once again. So what really is fueling this change? I think it's the country as a whole shifting to the right, and that's why states like Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona are more likely than not to flip in Donald Trump's column, as well as obviously Pennsylvania. Michigan is one of those states where it's going to be a lot harder for him to do it. He does have potential. He did lose the state by a lot more than what he lost all the other states by. And we also have the state of Nevada, which he lost by a pretty small amount as well. But this is a really, really right trending state, very favorable. He does lead the polls by a considerable amount. And he also has to defend the state of North Carolina. And since Republicans have been gaining in registration in North Carolina, I see him more likely than not being able to hold the state of North Carolina. But either way, going to the election here between Trump and Harris, usually in the 5-way, the Donald Trump would have done a lot better than in the 2-way, but since Joe Biden had dropped out, it has been the opposite. Harris does gain half a point from all the candidates together versus the head-to-head. And we can see that probably what happened was a lot of the Democrat support that had gone for third parties has now consolidated for Kamala Harris herself. But now that RFK had dropped out, I think more of those people are going to go for Donald Trump than Kamala Harris. So we can see here there had been some polls taken. I had mentioned this in a previous video. That's, this is just one of the polls taken, but we can see here that Donald Trump would be gaining over 51% of RFK voters. Harris would be gaining another fourth, and I would be guessing the other fourth would either go to the other third-party candidates or they would just not vote at all. So once again, we can add around 2 percentage points to Donald Trump's column right here, and that alone would swing every single state over the top except Michigan and Nevada. And then going over here, we can see that the share or percentage of vote that RFK did have before his dropout, we can see Arizona really stands out, 5.6%. Going off of that, if we give 50% of that to Trump, 25% to Kamala Harris, I think that's an easy Trump win, especially because he is up right now without the help of RFK Jr. There's other states that are pretty big as well. Michigan also very big. This will help his chances in the state. We have Nevada being very large as well. A lot of the states are very large except North Carolina, which does have a smaller effect. The RFK voters are not as prevalent as in many of these other states. So I think that these voters splitting 50 to 25 for Trump would be enough in themselves to put him over the top. And that's why I think this really changes the map. It changes the map significantly in more or less these 6 states over here, not as much North Carolina, but these 6 states right here, including Nevada, more than anything else. I think in states like Texas and Florida, in Virginia, Minnesota, those kind of states, it won't make too much more of the difference. We've been getting some polls out of Virginia that'll be close, but I still don't think it'll be enough for Trump to flip it. But either way, that's going to be that. And we're going to be filling out this map because of that. And I'll be going over all of these margins. But let's knock out these safe states out of the way. First of all, these are 12 and over states, the states that are going to go almost like 100% chance towards that candidate. I wouldn't say 100, because I don't like saying 100, but I'll say 99% chance for sure. And then right now we're going to have the states for Trump going in that safe column. 12 percentage points are up. The states of Iowa and Ohio will be included more than ever now. He won them by 8 percentage points in 2020. They did not swing left from the previous election, even though the nation as a whole swung 2 to 2.5 points to the left. And that'll be the safe states, 148, 181. The likely states will bring the Republicans to catch up. But first, I wanted to go over that Harris will still win the states of Colorado and New Mexico by 6 points or over. Colorado is going to be more on that higher end, while New Mexico is going to be probably on that border right now. We don't have much data out of New Mexico to indicate that it will be a lean margin state, and we don't have much data showing us how impactful RFK is going to be in these 2 states. But we can safely now say that the states of Texas and Florida are going to stay in that likely column. I'm really hesitant to put Florida in that safe column because 12 percentage points or up is a really, really big leap into that safe column for any state that's in the likely column. And right now, I do have Florida still staying at about a 9 to 10 point win. There's not many third-party votes in the state of Florida to begin with, so I think the max that he could help Trump in that state would probably be 1 percentage point. Same thing in Texas. I feel like there wasn't too many undecideds. That goes for a lot of these states that are not the final 6 or 7. There was not many undecideds to begin with. Many of these states, people already decided who they were going with, and we're just now down to the last 5% of the people. But 5% Trump gaining, as we talked about, 2.5% will not make a difference in any of these states unless they are in the tilt column, which would be 2 percentage points or less on either side. We're going to put Maine second, also in that likely column. He'll win that by close to safe. I could put it in safe, but once again, not much polls out of Maine to really say that. He's going to get similar margins what he would get against Joe Biden. But now let's get into some more competitive states. Democrats, I think, will pick up a pretty large number of lean states. These are states 2 to 6 percentage points. Minnesota, Virginia, New Hampshire, and Maine, all I expect to vote in similar fashion. They did vote in similar fashion in 2020. You got Virginia by 10, Minnesota by 7, New Hampshire by 7, and Maine by 9. I think they will all shrink Similarly, although I think Virginia will shrink the most, I'll give it right now around a 5-point win for Biden. Harris. Minnesota around 4, and I have New Hampshire and Maine also around 4 percentage points. I think Virginia does have potential, mainly because of Glenn Youngkin. I think he's had definitely a great effect on the state, and obviously Trump didn't choose him as his VP, so I don't think he really stands a chance in winning the state. However, some of these regions over here, especially down in Virginia Beach, could swing back a little bit, giving that illusion of this state being close. However, I still do not think it'll flip. States like New Hampshire and Maine will also move to the right. However, once again, even though there is high third-party prevalence in these two states, I do not think that they are going to break for Trump as much as these other states over here in this shaded color. And that's why right now I'm still leaving them in that column for Kamala Harris. And then finally, you will be introduced to the states that we're all pretty used to hearing. And right now, I do think that the state of North Carolina is going to be in that lean margin for Donald Trump. In 2020, North Carolina did not move too much to the left. Obviously, you got some movement in that research triangle. You got Raleigh, Greensboro, and Charlotte moving a little bit to the left. But a lot of these southeastern and northeastern counties moved heavily to the right as well. So that definitely saved the state from trending too far to the left. And I think this time around, these areas over here will continue to trend to the right. And Trump will probably increase his margin to around 3 percentage points, maybe 4 if RFK really has that much of an effect on him. But right now I'm leaving it about 3 to 3.5. Either way, this is going to leave us down to our tilt states. And we're going to go west to east as usual. And first of all, the state of Nevada will be going right now as tilt in Trump's column. One of the states that I do expect him to gain the most out of any state, and that is only due to Clark County, the fact that Hispanics are trending very heavily towards Republicans. You know, they won the governorship 2 years ago. They almost flip a popular senator seat. And I think this time around will be the year that Republicans are able to flip back the state of Nevada. And right now he does lead Nevada by a pretty solid amount, 1.4 percentage points. And that's pretty good for Republicans. That's pretty good for Donald Trump. Kamala Harris has only led one poll in the entire aggregate. I think this state will be in that tilt column. Very similar story with the state of Arizona. And I think Arizona is going to play a huge part in that RFK support. That endorsement, I think, is going to play especially a very important part in the state of Arizona. We check the state of Arizona now in the aggregate. Trump's up by 0.2 percentage points. It's skewed mainly by this D+5 poll by New York Times and Siena that is totally inaccurate. It's taking into the five-way into consideration. We see here Kamala Harris gaining around less than a point, but a pretty considerable amount from Donald Trump, or from that two-way average into this five-way average. And this is what I meant by saying that this state is going to be huge for that RFK dropout, because Trump does gain a pretty considerable amount when comparing the two-way to the five-way race. And this is one reason why I become more confident that Trump will win the state of Arizona, once again by a narrow amount, more than what Biden won it by, but still, he's going to win it by a pretty small amount. And then to cap off the South, we're going to have the state of Georgia. Originally, I was very unsure how Georgia was going to move, but after some pretty reliable polling, and Harris only leading one, which is a Dem internal, he does lead by 1 percentage point. This is one of those states where he does gain from RFK. I do not think RFK will play much of a significant role. That PPP poll is not in here, so that's one reason why it's probably skewed more to the right. But either way, I think Trump has the state of Georgia much or less in the bag. I wouldn't give it, obviously, too much of a high chance of going for him, but there's not going to be as much turnout in the Atlanta suburbs to really give Kamala Harris that win. And that right there would put Trump at 268. He would have to win one more of these states in the Rust Belt to be able to win, or he could win Nebraska second. But right now, I think Nebraska second is going to go for Kamala Harris by a narrow amount. This won't let me look at Nebraska second to be exact, but you can see here that Omaha, the whole region, is going to be more favorable towards Kamala Harris. Not many people live in these parts of the state, so Douglas County is really going to be the county that drives it. And if we see here, Douglas County did shift 9 points to the left. It won't be as left. He won it by 6 percentage points last time. Kamala Harris will probably win it by around 2 this time. But now we've returned to the Rust Belt, and the first state to fall and the state that would give Trump the win would be the state of Wisconsin, the state that only went for Joe Biden by 20,000 votes, and a state that in the polls are fairly close, considering the polls in Wisconsin are absolutely horrible. You know, they had Hillary Clinton winning by 11.5 in this day. They had Biden winning by 4.6, and usually they had him winning by much greater margins. We can see here, this was one of the closest it had been, and then it expanded to around 6 to 7 percentage points. Totally inaccurate, you know, once again, fueled by those same polls that we're used to seeing. We got Susquehanna here, which is one of the more accurate ones. We got Reuters, Ipsos, and then once again, New York Times and Siena, which had it at an 11-point win. Now New York Times and Siena has it at a 4-point win. So a shift of around 6 to 7 percentage points into Trump's column, and she's up by around 1 percentage point on average. I think this state right now is going to be in favor for Donald Trump. And due to the fact that third parties do have a big consideration, RFK does have a nice 5 percentage point vote in the state. I think that this state, especially if it swings 50 to 25% for Trump versus Harris, he'll be able to bring the state over the top by less than 2 percentage points. I'm going to skip over Michigan and get to it last, and then go over to the state of Pennsylvania, where I will also be giving that state towards Donald Trump. RFK's vote is 4.4 percentage points in the state of Pennsylvania. And then Pennsylvania is one of those states where Joe Biden had a very good connection to the eastern part. If we take a look at the swings, we can see the eastern part of Pennsylvania swung upwards of 5, 6, 7, 8 points to the left, apart from Philadelphia County. The western part of Pennsylvania did not really change as much at all. So the whole state primarily revolves around the eastern part of the state and how it's going to swing. Apart from Erie County, I think if we're going to see Trump perform well, he would flip Erie County, he would flip Northampton County, he would do better in the suburbs, he would continue to gain Philadelphia County, he would gain back in Lackawanna County, Monroe County. I think those are very good signs of Trump gaining in the state, and I think since Joe Biden is not there, Kamala Harris does not have that same connection to eastern Pennsylvania. Joe Biden is from Lackawanna County. That's where Scranton is. So he does have that home-based territory advantage. Same thing with Delaware, where he did do pretty good. He swung all the counties by upwards of 10 to 11 percentage points. But she does not have that home-based advantage. She is not really popular in the state of Pennsylvania as a whole. The polls are looking consistent for Trump now, where he does lead by a small amount, but most polls do have him up by a consistent 1 percentage point, apart from obviously New York Times and Quinnipiac, which is a pretty common theme. We're going to see New York Times coming out with these polls that do not even align with the rest of them released. But either way, I would put Pennsylvania in that tilt column. Lastly, and the state that probably is going to be the closest state in this election is going to be the state of Michigan. And Michigan right now, I'm going to leave as a toss-up because I had recently flipped it into the Democratic column because of polling. Polling had been very good for Kamala Harris, apart from this poll, which has her up by 11. But other polling has had her up between 1 and 2 percentage points. Even Rasmussen has her up by 1 percentage point. Keep in mind, Democrats are usually overestimated, but not as much as the state of Wisconsin. Furthermore, in 2020, Joe Biden had won the state by around 2 to 3 percentage points, which is a lot more than the states of Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. There are a lot of counties where Democrats could do well, could swing them over. We have Wayne County, we have Oakland County, where they can gain Macomb County, and then we do have Kent County. And those are just a few, to say the least, that Democrats could be gaining on. In Michigan, though, something that I think will put this back into the toss-up would be that 5.6 percentage point vote share for RFK. And due to the fact that they will swing for Trump more than Kamala Harris, I think this puts it back in that toss-up column. I wouldn't give it to Trump just yet because we need more polling, and we haven't gotten much polling in much of these states in a while. Nationally, we haven't got much polling since last week, and we definitely need some updates for some of these pollsters to really gauge on what is going on post DNC and post RFK, dropout and endorsement of Trump. But either way, this is going to be my map right now. We got 297 for Trump, 226 for Harris, and we have Michigan toss up. I will be giving Michigan a rating within the next week or so, and that will be my prediction for the last week of August, past this dropout and past the DNC. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe, like this video, comment down in the section below, and I'll check you guys out in the next one.